The rain was falling in silver lines across the alien city. The sky was covered in black smoke, and the streets were filled with strange, glowing signs. Every building rose like a giant shadow, and the light of the moons painted the ground in pale blue. Crowds of tall alien creatures moved with heavy steps, their eyes shining, their armor cold and sharp. And in the middle of this sea of alien life, one small human woman walked slowly, holding a child in her arms. Her face was pale, her lips dry, her steps shaking. The child pressed close to her chest, weak and thin, eyes half closed from hunger. For 3 long days, they had eaten nothing. Her heart beat heavy, but she forced herself to walk, to try again, to beg one more time. She stopped near a food stall, where an alien vendor stood behind a table of steaming meat. The smell filled the air, thick and heavy. The mother raised her voice, soft but desperate. "Please, may I have the leftovers for my child?" she whispered. For a moment, silence fell across the market. The aliens near her turned their heads, their strange eyes glowing in the rain light. The vendor stared at her, not with pity but with disgust. He pushed her away with his hand and hissed in his strange language. Humans had no right to ask. Not here. Not in this city. The child coughed weakly, and the sound echoed like a knife. In her chest, the mother's knees almost bent, but she forced herself to stand straight. Around her, laughter began, low at first, then louder. Aliens laughed at the human mother begging for scraps. Some pointed, some spat on the ground near her feet, but she stood still, holding her child, her voice trembling. "Please, just something small for my child." The vendor threw a piece of spoiled bread onto the wet street. It landed in the mud, soaked with dirty rainwater. The crowd laughed again. The mother bent down slowly, her hands shaking, her pride breaking. She reached for the bread, but before she could take it, an alien boot crushed it into the mud. The laughter grew louder, cruel. Her eyes burned with tears, but she did not cry. Her child's weak breath against her chest reminded her she could not stop. She turned away, her steps heavy, her heart sinking. Everywhere she looked, she saw alien faces, cold and empty. Not one reached to help. Not one cared. But then, in the shadows of the market, someone watched. A figure stood silent, hidden by a long cloak. The rain slid from his hood, his face unseen. His eyes followed the woman, sharp and waiting. He saw the way she begged. He saw the way the aliens mocked. And for the first time, in that endless city of steel and stone, someone moved. The mother walked on, searching for another stall, another chance. Her voice already weak, her body shaking from hunger. She stopped again, her voice breaking as she begged once more. The crowd ignored her, their faces cold, their hearts harder than iron. And yet, the cloaked figure took one step forward. The sound of his boots was lost in the noise of the market. But his eyes never left her. She did not see him, not yet, but she felt something, a strange weight, like eyes upon her. She looked around, but only saw the endless rain, the endless alien faces. Still, deep inside her, a small voice whispered that maybe, just maybe, she was not alone. The child moved slightly, whispering something, too soft to hear. The mother held him close, whispering back, "I will find food, I promise." But in her heart, she knew promises were breaking like glass. Her knees trembled, her breath heavy, her hope thin, and yet she walked, one step after another, because she could not stop. She would not stop. Behind her, the cloaked figure followed, slow, silent, waiting for the right moment. The aliens around him never noticed, never cared. To them, humans were nothing but shadows, but he knew, he had seen enough. And soon the silence of the city would break. Soon this story of hunger and despair would turn into something else. The mother did not yet know, but her begging voice, her broken strength was about to awaken. Something powerful. Something the aliens had forgotten. Something that once shook the stars. The spirit of humanity, waiting in the dark. And tonight, in the rain, in the cold streets of a city not her own, that spirit was about to rise again. The rain did not stop. It fell like endless chains from the sky. The woman carried her child through the market streets, her body trembling, her hope fading. Behind her, the cloaked figure still followed, silent as a shadow. The aliens around them ignored the suffering, their faces hard, their hearts colder than stone. This city was not built for humans. It was built on their defeat. Long ago, Earth had been a bright home filled with oceans, forests, and the laughter of billions. But then came the war. The sky above Earth had burned with fire. Alien fleets darkened the stars. Human ships fought with courage, but they were outnumbered, outgunned, and betrayed. One by one, Earth's defenses fell. And when the last human fleet was destroyed, silence spread across the galaxy. The age of mankind was over, or so the aliens believed. Now humans lived scattered, broken, hiding in alien cities like beggars. Some were slaves, forced to mine in dark tunnels where no light touched their faces. Some were servants carrying food and water for their masters. And some, like this mother, were refugees, allowed to live only if they obeyed every cruel rule. They could not own land. They could not eat freely. They could not even raise their heads too high. For if they did, the alien guards would remind them who ruled. The mother remembered her own past. Once she had lived on Earth. In a small house where sunlight touched the windows, she remembered the sound of waves, the smell of fresh bread, the voice of her child laughing. But those memories were fading, like old paper burning away. Now she walked in a place where the air tasted of smoke and iron, and where humans were nothing more than shadows of what they had been. The child stirred in her arms, whispering with weak lips, "Mother, why won't they help us?" Her heart broke, but she forced her voice steady. "They don't understand, my love, but I will find something for you. I will not stop." She kissed his forehead, though her lips were dry as dust. High above, banners of the alien empire waved in the storm. They showed a sharp silver crest, the mark of conquest. Every building carried that symbol, a reminder of who ruled this world. It was said that once, the empire had been weak, and humans had stood tall. But now the empire was strong and humans bent like broken branches. The cloaked figure knew this history well. He remembered the battles, the screams, the burning of Earth. He had fought once when he was young. He had seen friends die with courage, and he had seen others kneel in surrender. But he had never forgotten the fire in human eyes. And as he watched the mother beg in the rain, he saw that fire still alive, even if faint. The mother reached another stall. She spoke again, her voice shaking but still brave. "Please, just something small, anything for my child." The alien behind the stall snarled and waved her away. "Humans should starve," he spat, his voice cold. The crowd laughed again, as if her suffering was nothing but entertainment, so turned away, her body heavy, her child lighter in her arms than he should have been. Her heart whispered she would not last another day, but her soul whispered she could not give up. Somewhere deep inside her, the memory of Earth still burned, the memory of blue skies, of freedom, of hope. And though the world mocked her, she walked on, step after step. In the shadows, the cloaked figure clenched his fists. His eyes burned. With anger, his breath sharp, he had seen enough. For years he had hidden, waiting, searching for the right moment. Now watching this mother, he felt the moment had come, because this was not just one woman begging for scraps. This was the face of all humanity, beaten but unbroken. And if she could endure, perhaps others could too. The market lights flickered. Thunder rolled above. The child coughed again, his weak sound lost in the storm. The mother's tears mixed with the rain, unseen, and the cloaked figure stepped closer. For the first time, the mother noticed him, his shadow long, his cloak dark, his presence heavy. He did not speak. Not yet. But in his silence there was something different, something human, and her heart, fragile and afraid, felt the smallest spark of hope. The world around her was cruel, the empire unshakable, but maybe, just maybe, this night would not end in hunger. Maybe this night was the beginning of something greater, and maybe the spirit of mankind, silent for so long, was ready to rise again. The mother walked deeper into the market, her feet dragging through wet stone streets. The rain had slowed, but the air was still heavy with smoke and noise. She looked at her child, his eyes half closed, his lips pale, his little body trembling. Her heart ached, but she could not stop. She could not sit down. If she stopped, it would mean giving up, and she could not give up, not yet. Around her, the alien city moved with careless rhythm. Merchants shouted in their sharp voices. Guards, in black armor, marched with weapons that hummed. Above, giant screens glowed with alien words, warning humans to obey. No one noticed her struggle. No one cared for the life fading in her arms. To them, she was just another shadow, another human forgotten by history, but not to him. The cloaked figure followed, his steps silent, his eyes burning with anger. He had seen cruelty before, but tonight something stirred in him. He had watched humans fall, but now he saw a mother refusing to let her child die without a fight. And that quiet defiance sparked something deep in his heart. The mother stopped again at another stall. She raised her voice, weak but steady. "Please, for my child, only a little, I beg you." The alien vendor looked down with cold eyes. He sneered, his mouth curling in disgust. "You humans always beg," he said, his voice sharp, "but you give nothing back." With a sweep of his hand, he pushed her aside. Her body stumbled, but she held the child tightly, refusing to fall. The child whimpered, and the sound cut deeper than any blade. The mother whispered to him, "Stay strong, my love, stay strong." But her words were drowned by laughter. The aliens around her laughed again, their voices cruel. Some threw scraps of trash at her feet as if mocking her pain was a game. And then it happened. One alien, larger than the rest, stepped forward. He towered above her, his armor gleaming. Under the neon lights, he raised his boot and kicked the bread she had picked from the ground, sending it flying into the mud. "Humans should eat dirt," he growled. The crowd laughed louder. The mother's body shook, not from fear, but from rage. Her eyes burned with tears, but she refused to bow her head. At that moment, the cloaked figure moved. He stepped from the shadows, his presence cutting through the noise of the market. The laughter dimmed as some aliens turned their heads, curious. The figure walked slowly, every step heavy with intent. He stopped near the mother, his face still hidden by the hood. His hand reached into his cloak and he pulled out something small. It was a piece of food, wrapped carefully, protected from the rain. He held it out, toward the child. The mother gasped softly, her eyes wide. She looked at him, uncertain, afraid, but also desperate. The child opened his eyes slightly, his small hands reaching weakly, but before she could take it, a sharp voice cut the air. "Stop!" Alien guards pushed through the crowd, their black armor shining, their weapons humming. The laughter stopped, silence spreading like a shadow. Everyone knew what it meant. Helping a human was a crime. To give food, to give kindness, was to invite punishment. The cloaked figure did not move. He stood tall, his hand still holding the food, his voice steady. "This child will eat," he said, his words deep, his accent human. Gasps rose from the crowd. The guards raised their weapons, their eyes glowing with cold light. "Humans do not give orders," one hissed. "Step away or be destroyed." The mother's heart pounded, her body froze, torn between fear and hope. She wanted to beg the cloaked figure to leave, to run before the guards struck, but another part of her, a part long buried, wanted him to stand, wanted him to fight. For years she had bowed, begged, and bent her back. But now, seeing him, she felt something new, something forgotten. She felt the fire of humanity. The guards stepped closer, their weapons raised. The crowd moved back, afraid but eager to watch. The mother held her child tighter, her breath shaking. The cloaked figure slowly lowered his hood, and for the first time, the crowd saw his face. He was human, scarred and hardened, but alive. A survivor, a fighter. His eyes burned not with fear, but with defiance. The aliens hissed, their voices sharp like blades. One stepped forward. "Humans who defy the law die," but the cloaked man's lips curved into a thin smile. He handed the food to the child, ignoring their threats. And the moment the child touched it, something unspoken shifted in the air. The guards tightened their grip on their weapons, ready to strike. The crowd leaned closer, waiting for blood. The mother's heart thundered as she realized the truth. This night was no longer about hunger. It was about rebellion. The market fell into silence. Rain tapped against metal rooftops. Neon lights flickered and the crowd of aliens stood frozen. All eyes were on the cloaked man, the human who had dared to show his face, and all ears were waiting for the clash that was about to begin. The mother clutched her child closer, her heart beating so hard it hurt. She could not believe what she was seeing. For years she had thought humans broken, weak, finished, but now, before her, stood one who did not bow, one who stood tall. The guards moved forward, their black armor glowing with symbols of the Empire. Each step they took echoed across the wet stone, heavy and sharp. Their weapons hummed with deadly energy, each one strong enough to kill in an instant. The leader of the guards pointed his weapon straight at the cloaked figure. "Drop the food, kneel and beg for mercy," he ordered, his voice cold as iron. But the man did not kneel. He did not drop the food. Instead, he placed it gently into the child's small hands. The boy's weak fingers curled around it, holding it like treasure. And for the first time in days, the boy's lips moved in a small smile. The crowd gasped. No one had seen a human defy the Empire like this, not here, not in the open. The aliens whispered among themselves, their voices filled with shock, anger, and fear. Some wanted to see blood. Others feared what this act might awaken, but all of them knew this moment was dangerous. The mother's eyes filled with tears, not of weakness, but of something else. For the first time in years, she felt pride. She whispered softly to her child, "Do not forget this, my love, do not forget." Her voice was drowned by the thunder above, but her words were stronger than the storm. The guard leader stepped closer, his weapon glowing brighter. "You dare break our law," he hissed. "You dare give hope to cattle." The cloaked man raised his head, his scarred face calm, his eyes steady. "Humans are not cattle," he said, his voice low but sharp enough to cut through the rain. "We were broken, yes, but not defeated, not yet." The crowd stirred, unease spreading like fire. The guards tightened their grip, ready to strike. But the cloaked man did not move. He stood tall, his cloak heavy with rain, his presence filling the space with something unseen. It was not just defiance, it was something more. It was the spirit of a people refusing to vanish. The mother looked around and saw other humans in the crowd. They were thin, weak, silent, but their eyes had changed, for the first time in years. Their eyes lit up, not with fear, but with something dangerous, hope. The guard leader shouted, "Seize him!" 2 guards rushed forward, their weapons raised, but the cloaked man moved faster. His hands flashed beneath his cloak, and in an instant, a blade of human steel appeared. The sound of metal rang out as he blocked the first strike. Sparks flew as alien energy met human steel. The crowd roared, the market exploding with noise. The mother gasped, stepping back to shield her child. The child clung to her tightly, but his eyes stayed wide, watching, for he was seeing something he had never seen before. A human fighting back, the cloaked man's blade cut through the air, sharp and precise. One guard stumbled, his weapon falling into the mud. The other reeled back, his armor scratched, his pride wounded. The leader snarled, rage burning in his eyes. "Kill him!" he screamed. The guards surrounded him, weapons glowing, but the cloaked man only smiled. He moved like a shadow, fast and controlled. Each strike of his blade was filled with purpose, not wild rage, but trained strength. This was no beggar, no slave. This was a soldier, one who had fought before, one who remembered the old wars. The crowd could not look away. Some aliens shouted, in anger, others in shock. But among the humans in the crowd, silent tears fell. For in that moment, they remembered who they were. The mother's heart beat faster. She knew the man could not win against so many guards. But still, he fought. Still, he stood tall. And for the first time, she did not feel alone. The guards pressed harder, their weapons clashing, their voices filled with rage. But the cloaked man's blade cut through the storm, his movements fierce. And with every strike, every defiance, the market changed. This was no longer a place of begging and laughter at human pain. This was becoming something else, something dangerous. The leader of the guards raised his weapon high, its light burning like fire. He aimed at the cloaked man's chest, ready to end it all. The mother cried out, her voice breaking through the chaos. "No!" And in that cry, the cloaked man found strength. His blade flashed upward, striking. The weapon aside, the energy burst into the sky, lighting the storm above. Thunder answered, as if the heavens themselves roared with him. The crowd fell silent, every alien and human frozen. And in that silence, something shifted. A single act of defiance had broken the stillness of fear, and the city would never forget this night. The storm raged above, lightning flashing across the alien sky. The market stood frozen, the sound of rain mixing with the hum of weapons. The cloaked man stood tall, his blade glowing faintly with the reflection of neon lights. The alien guards circled him, their armor dripping with rain, their eyes burning with fury. The mother held her child close, her breath fast, her heart racing. She could not look away. She could not believe what she was seeing. For years she had thought humans, powerless, broken, nothing more than shadows. But here was a man who fought, who stood against them without fear. The guard leader snarled, his weapon shaking with anger. "You will die for this, human," he hissed. The cloaked man only raised his head, his eyes sharp, his voice steady. "I have died once already," he said, "and I came back for them." The words struck the mother like thunder. She whispered softly, "Who are you?" The man turned his face toward her, the rain sliding across his scars. His eyes glowed with something deeper than anger, something stronger than fear. "I am a soldier," he said, "one of the last, left behind when Earth fell." Gasps spread through the crowd. Even the aliens looked at one another, whispers rippling through the market. Many had thought all human soldiers dead, crushed in the final war. But here was one alive, scarred yet standing. A ghost from the past returned in flesh and blood. The guards shouted, their voices rising. "Lies!" one hissed. "No human soldier survived. All were destroyed." But the cloaked man shook his head, his hand tightening on his blade. "We were scattered, not destroyed," he said. "We hid, we waited, and we remembered." The mother's eyes widened, her heart trembling. "You are not alone," she whispered. The soldier looked at her, his eyes deep. "No," he said, "and neither are you." The guards lunged forward, weapons flashing. The soldier moved like lightning, his blade cutting through the air with precision. He struck one weapon aside, his cloak twisting with his movements. The clash rang through the market like thunder. The mother shielded her child, but her eyes never left the man, for she felt the truth in his words, and she felt the fire returning to her heart. The soldier pushed the guards back, his voice rising above the storm. "You rule with fear," he shouted, "but fear cannot last forever." The aliens hissed, their rage boiling. The crowd leaned closer, every eye fixed on the scene, and in that moment, for the first time in years, humans dared to lift their heads. One human in the crowd whispered, "He is one of us." Another whispered, "He fights for us." And the whispers grew, spreading like sparks across dry wood, until the market buzzed with the sound of human voices, quiet but growing, weak but rising. The guard leader roared, "Silence them." But before he could strike, the soldier lowered his blade slightly, his eyes sharp. "If you kill me here, more will rise," he said. "For we are not gone, we are not finished." The mother felt her knees weaken, not from fear, but from hope. Her child pressed his face against her chest, holding the food as if it were life itself. And for the first time she believed he might live. Not only live, but grow in a world where humans no longer begged. The soldier looked back at her, his voice softer now. "If you want your child to survive, come with me," he said. Her breath caught, her heart heavy with choice. To follow meant danger. It meant leaving the false safety of silence. But to stay meant slow death, meant chains, forever. The guards tightened their circle, their weapons aimed. The soldier raised his blade again, his eyes never blinking. Behind him, the humans in the crowd began to move. Small steps at first, then stronger. They stood closer, their eyes burning with the same light. The crowd of slaves was no longer silent. They were remembering who they were. The aliens hissed in anger, their control slipping, and for the first time, fear touched their faces. For they saw not just one soldier, they saw a spark that could become fire, a fire that could burn their empire. The soldier's voice cut the air, sharp as steel. We were broken, but we will rise again. The mother's lips parted, a whisper leaving her. HFY, she breathed, the old words rising from memory. Humans for humanity. The guard leader roared in fury, his weapon raised high, but the soldier stepped forward, his blade flashing, and the storm above answered with thunder. The night itself seemed to hold its breath, for the battle was no longer about one man. It was about the future of a people. The storm rolled across the alien sky, thunder echoing through the market. The soldier stood in the center, blade raised, surrounded by guards with weapons ready. The mother held her child close, her body trembling but her heart burning with new fire. The crowd of humans watched, their eyes no longer empty, no longer silent. For years they had lived in chains, bowing their heads, obeying every cruel command. For years they had hidden their pride, their strength, their memories of freedom. But now, before them, stood one of their own who did not kneel, one who had survived, one who had fought, one who refused to bow. The guards moved forward, but the soldier did not step back. His scarred face was calm, his eyes steady. He knew he could not defeat them all, but he also knew this was no longer just a fight. This was a message, a spark, a call to every human who still had breath. He shouted, his voice carrying above the storm, "Look at your chains, look at your fear, look at what they made you believe." The humans in the crowd shivered, his words cutting deep. "Do you not remember who you are?" he cried. "We are the ones who built ships that crossed the stars. We are the ones who lit fire in the darkness, who stood against empires stronger than this one. And still we endured. Still we survived." The guard snarled, trying to silence him, but the humans in the crowd whispered, then murmured louder. They remembered. They remembered Earth, its oceans, its forests, its skies. They remembered freedom, laughter, the pride of standing tall, and their whispers grew, rising into a sound the aliens had not heard in years, the sound of humans finding their voices. The mother's eyes filled with tears, but her tears were not of despair. They were of something long buried, something fierce. Her child looked up at her, weak but awake, his small hands clutching the food. "Mother," he whispered, "he is like the heroes you told me about." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. "Yes," she whispered back, "and so are you." The soldier moved with sudden speed, blocking a strike from one guard. His blade flashed, sparks flying as steel clashed against alien energy. The guards stumbled, their balance shaken. The crowd gasped. But this time it was not in fear. It was in awe, in pride. The soldier stood tall, his cloak torn, his chest rising with heavy breaths, but his voice was strong. "You can beat my body," he said, "but you cannot kill what I carry." The guard leader shouted, "What is that?" The soldier's eyes burned like fire. "The spirit of humanity," he said, "the spirit that never dies." The humans in the crowd cried out, their voices rising. Some shouted words of hope, others simply screamed, but together their voices shook the market. The aliens looked around, uneasy, their control slipping, for they had ruled with silence, and now silence was broken. The mother stepped forward, her child in her arms, her voice trembling but strong. "My child will not grow as a slave," she said, her words cutting through the noise. Her eyes shone, with pride, with defiance. She stood beside the soldier, her thin frame shaking but unbent. The humans saw her, and they stepped forward too, one by one, then more, until the crowd moved as one, a tide rising, unstoppable. The guard leader raised his weapon, but his hands shook. For the first time he saw not beggars, not cattle, but people. and people who had found their spirit again. He shouted, "Silence them!" But his voice cracked with fear. The soldier raised his blade high. His voice thundered like the storm. "You wanted us broken," he cried, "but we are unbroken. You wanted us forgotten," he roared, "but we will be remembered. And you wanted us silent." His eyes blazed, "But we will speak and the stars will hear us." The humans cheered, their voices rolling like thunder across the market. The aliens stumbled back, the guards hesitating, for they saw now that this was not one man against many, this was one man awakening many, and the many could not be stopped. The mother kissed her child's forehead, her voice soft but fierce. "You will remember this night," she whispered. "The night we stood again." The child smiled faintly, his eyes bright with hope, and though his body was weak, his spirit was strong, for he had seen the truth. Humans were not done. The storm cracked above, lightning splitting the sky. The soldier lowered his blade, his voice quiet now, but heavy with power. "This is only the beginning," he said. The crowd fell into silence, every heart beating fast, every breath sharp. They knew the fight was not over, but they also knew something had changed forever. The mother looked at the soldier, her eyes shining. "What will happen now?" she asked. The soldier's lips curved into a grim smile. "Now," he said, "we rise." The storm had quieted, but the air still carried the weight of thunder. The market stood in chaos, humans shouting, aliens retreating, the guards holding their weapons but no longer certain. The cloaked soldier stood tall in the center, his blade dripping with rain, his breath sharp but steady. Beside him stood the mother, her child in her arms, her eyes blazing with courage she had not felt in years. The humans had found their voices again, their cries shaking the night. They were no longer shadows, no longer silent slaves. The aliens hissed in anger, but their voices were drowned by the sound of humanity awakening. The guards looked at their leader, waiting for command, but even he faltered. For in the faces of the humans he saw not weakness but fire. The soldier raised his hand, calling for silence. The voices quieted, but the fire remained in their eyes. He looked around at them, each face thin and weary, yet burning with pride. "This is only the beginning," he said, his voice carrying across the market. "Tonight, you saw the truth. We are not broken, we are not gone, and we will rise again." The humans cheered, but the cheer carried danger. High above, great mechanical eyes of the Empire blinked awake. The city's watchers, machines that reported every sound, every act of rebellion. Soon the Empire would know, soon their answer would come, and the answer would not be gentle. The mother felt her child stir, his voice soft but filled with hope. "Mother, are we free now?" he whispered. Her heart tightened, for she did not know what tomorrow would bring. She kissed his forehead and whispered back, "Not yet, my love, but one day soon." The soldier turned to her, his face grave. "You must come with me," he said. "The Empire will not forgive this night. They will hunt you, hunt all of us." The mother nodded, her voice steady. "Then we run, but we do not hide in silence anymore." The soldier's eyes softened, respect shining in his gaze. "You have more strength than you know," he said. She shook her head, tears in her eyes. "No, it was you who reminded me, you who reminded us all." The guards, still tense, began to regroup. Their leader snarled, his pride burning hotter than his fear. "You cannot win," he spat. "You may spark a flame, but we will crush it beneath our boots." The soldier raised his blade, his voice sharp as lightning. "Then you had better be ready to burn." The crowd gasped, the tension ready to explode. But before the guards could strike again, a horn echoed through the city, a deep mechanical sound, shaking the streets. Every alien turned their head, their eyes wide with alarm. The soldier's expression darkened. "They are coming," he whispered. In the distance, the ground rumbled. Heavy machines rolled closer, their lights cutting through the storm. The Empire's enforcers, larger, stronger, merciless. The humans in the crowd froze, their courage trembling. The soldier looked at them, his voice commanding, Do not break, not now, you must stand no matter what comes. The mother held her child close, whispering softly. We will not bow again, she said. Her child smiled faintly, his small voice brave. We are strong, like him. The soldier turned back to the guards, his blade gleaming in the rain. You can kill me, he said, but my death will not silence them. The guard leader sneered, but his voice shook. Then you will die, and they will watch. The soldier's lips curved into a grim smile. Or they will fight. The humans in the crowd shouted again, louder, fiercer. Some picked up stones, others broken tools, their hands shaking but ready. The aliens hissed, stepping back, for they had ruled with fear, and fear was slipping from their grasp. The storm above cracked with lightning, and the city itself seemed to hold its breath. The soldier looked at the mother one last time, his voice low. You asked for leftovers, but your child will have more than scraps. He will have a future if we dare to take it. Her tears mixed. With the rain, her voice steady. Then let us take it. The sound of the Empire's machines grew louder, closer, the streets trembled, the night filled with red lights cutting through the rain. The soldier raised his blade high, his voice roaring above the thunder. This is the night it begins, the night we rise. The humans cried out, their voices rolling like waves, their chains falling in spirit if not yet in flesh. The aliens shrank back, their control trembling, and the machines of the Empire drew nearer, their steps like drums of war. The mother kissed her child's forehead, her whisper soft but fierce. Hold on, my love, the world is about to change. The soldier's eyes burned with fire, his blade ready, his heart steady. The crowd stood behind him, no longer silent, no longer broken. The storm cracked above as if the sky itself was watching, and then as the machines turned the corner, their red lights flooding the market, the night ended not in silence, but in fire.